Hi, I'm Matt Grayson, technical editor for ephotozine.com. It's been over a year now since Nikon first shipped out the D3, and they've all surprised us by bringing out the D3x. Well, actually, that's a complete lie. It wasn't a surprise at all, but here it is. So it's 12 months later, technology has really moved on in that time, as it always does. So the D3x must have something that's entirely spectacular to release a camera of this kind of price. Well, it's got the 24.5 million pixel sensor. It's got ISO sensitivity down to ISO 50, but that's not true sensitivity. It only goes down to 100 true. The 50 is equivalent. Capped at 6400, which is unusual. And also, that's not true either. That's an equivalent, as is the ISO 3200. So the true sensitivity is only 100 to 1600, which is pretty low for a camera of this kind of specification. And also, the frames per second rate is slower than the D3, which is at 5. I think you can actually push up to 7, but the D3 actually had a maximum frame rate of 9. And other than that, well, this is quite embarrassing. That's basically it. So here's the D3x in close-up, or well, as close as I can get it without it getting out of shot. This is fitted with the 50mm 1.4D lens, and basically it's the same as the D3. No size changes dimensionally whatsoever. It's a little bit lighter than the D3, which is unusual, but there you go. Now, what's on everybody's lips is obviously the sensor, 24.5 million pixels. It's an improved design sensor, which Nikon say is exclusive to this camera. They're trying to distance themselves from the A900, which has had pretty bad reviews regarding noise. When I reviewed the A900, it does actually suffer from noise badly at the same maximum ISO that this has, which is 6400. This camera does have better noise performance than the A900, which is a great thing. However, the other camera that is on everybody's lips at the moment is the Canon EOS 5D Mark II, and it's unfortunate to say for Nikon that the Canon has much better noise performance at the same rating as this. And also, not to mention that, but the Canon also goes up to 25,600, the same as the Nikon D3. So if Canon can get such good noise results at such a high ISO, then why can't Nikon, especially when this camera is around £3,000 more expensive? Now, the sensor, like I said before, has been exclusively designed. The pixels have been designed to carry larger electrical charges. Now, this means that light transmission is better and gives a wider dynamic range. 14-bit AD conversion is on chip to reduce power consumption, and the new exclusive low-pass filter gives minimised moire thanks to the multi-layer coating. The D3 has 100% field of view, but the D700 only has 96%. Now, what they've done to compensate the fact that you don't get the dust reduction is the Capture NX software that comes with the D3X has a dust reduction feature on that, and it also has batch processing. So obviously your dust is going to be in the same place on each image, so you can remove it on one and then it will remove it on every single image after that. Now, that's a good idea, but at the end of the day, it doesn't actually remove the dust off the sensor, which means that you're going to have to continuously remove it until you actually do it yourself, which is my main problem with it. Now, the Sony A900 has dust reduction and also has 100% field of view, and it has that by the steady shot or image stabilization being actually on the sensor as opposed to in the lens. And this is the only way you can really do that, because it uses that steady shot to shake the sensor to get rid of any dust. This would be a good idea, and it may be an idea for Nikon, Canon, anybody else who has lens-based image stabilization to consider putting it onto the camera body instead. If you're a professional using this camera in the field, you're going to want to know if something goes wrong so you can switch to a backup body. Now, the shutter is made of Kevlar carbon fibre, so it's much stronger than previous ones. What it also has is a self-diagnostic which tests itself after each shutter is fired, and if there's a problem with it, then it flags up an error message on the screen so you can see, switch over to the next body and carry on shooting so you don't lose that all-important shot. Right, so just come out in the freezing cold to get a picture of the sunset on a longish exposure. Now, the best scene we can get is actually over this hedge here, which means I've got to have the camera on a tripod right at its full extension. So I'm going to stick the camera on a self-timer so that the tripod's nice and steady for when it actually takes the picture, so it's not got me pressing it down and wobbling it. What I'm also going to use, because I can't quite see, I'm going to use the live view. And I'm also going to use the virtual horizon that the D3X has got built in to make sure that everything's straight, because I can't quite see through the viewfinder because it's a little bit too tall for me. So what we do is the live view is on the top dial there. We just stick it onto LV, and then we just press the shutter release down, and you'll be able to see the image on the screen there. If you want to use your virtual horizon, you hit the menu button, you go down to the spanner, and then you can scroll down using your rear wheel down to the bottom underneath GPS, which says virtual horizon there, and then that'll give you like a heads-up display that you get on an aeroplane, telling you whether it's level with the horizon or not. If it's green, then it is. If it's yellow, then it's not. It's slightly out, so you just need to adjust your tripod slightly to get it there. That looks about right though, so we're going to say OK to that, and then we're going to come out of the menu and we'll hit the button again. I've got it on ISO 100. It can go down to 50, but I want a true ISO, so we're going to leave it at 100. And we're going to take this picture now. So I need to stick that over to live view, which is over to self timer, sorry, which is the next one. I'm on a manual white balance of around 6,200 Kelvin, which gives it a little bit of warmth because the sun's already gone down. And here we go. There we go. Oh, that's a nice shot. Yeah, it's lovely. We've got some lovely colours from the sky there. But the sun's already gone down, so the colours are fading slightly. So I've just boosted the warmth up in the image with the Kelvin slightly in the temperature, just to give it that little bit extra oomph in the sky there. So we'll see how that comes out. So would I pay £5,500 for this camera? Well, let's look at the evidence. Features-wise, it's bristling with them. It's the top-of-the-range camera, so it's got to have everything that you need for a pro-spec DSLR. However, most of the stuff we've already seen on the D3 and some of the things we've seen on the D700 as well. It's got 24.5 million pixels though, but then we've seen that on the Sony A900. We've nearly seen it on the Canon EOS 5D Mark II, and we've nearly seen it on the EOS 1DS Mark III. So do you really need those 4 extra million pixels if you're thinking about going for the Canon instead? That's something that you need to consider. Build-wise, you can't fault it. It's solid, it's firm, you feel as though you're holding a camera. When I've been using it, I felt like a man, not just a little boy running around with a trinket. Absolutely brilliant. You feel as though you're taking a photograph and not a snap. Performance-wise, using the camera at the launch and using it at the size, low ISO, the camera works brilliantly. I could crop right into the image. I could see individual strands of hairs on the model's head. I could pick out the eyelashes, and that was when I would cropped into the highest possible point that's available on the camera, which is absolutely amazing. When you get to the high ISO, it falls to pieces. This camera is supposed to be all about image quality, and frankly, it should be working really good at every single ISO setting, not just the low ones. 6400, it works much better than the Sony A900, which is supposed to have the same sensor, but it doesn't work as well as the Canon, which is around £3,000 less. So, that being the evidence, would I pay £5,500 for this camera? No.